Hey everyone, welcome to another live video of ToolJet. I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining this call today. And today we have a special guest, Vrushank Vyas, today with us, and he is from Portkey, and we'll be talking about the ToolJet and Portkey integration. And we'll also be building a AI model comparison application with the integration with Portkey and ToolJet. So before I start building the application and show you how the integration works, I would like Frushang to speak about Portkey and about himself as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Pritesh. Happy to be here. Happy to talk to the ToolJet community. We are very excited about this partnership because we are big fans of ToolJet ourselves. They are one of the leading open source players within the ecosystem. And at Portkey, we're trying to do something within the open source community ourselves with our Portkey gateway. And we found the perfect right synergy between really what are the best ways ToolJet users can benefit from what we're building at Portkey. Quick word about me. I lead GTM development efforts at Portkey. Portkey we started about 1.5 years ago. We're building a control panel for GenAI apps. We help you observe, govern, and optimize your AI apps with our observability gateway and guardrails suite.
Good.
Perfect. I think you guys can see my screen. So as I was saying, we're building the critical tooling that every AI developer would need. Um, so it comes in built. Portkey comes in built with an observability suite, AI gateway, guardrails, prompt management. It helps you make your AI agents secure as well, and a bunch of these things. Let me show you how Portkey looks like when you sign up. This is the dashboard. On this dashboard, you will see across any time slice how much money you are spending on LLMs. So, on the logs page on the Portkey dashboard, you'll be able to see every single request that you're sending, how much cost you are incurring, what other tokens you are sending, and when you click on a particular request, you'll also see the exact request and response you are sending to the LLM API. And this is where it starts, but this is also where it gets interesting. What we've done on top of this is we built, as I shared, an open source AI gateway. Let me maybe show you that as well. Here, what we do is using the same common OpenAI compliant API, we help you call 250 different LLMs using this same API. So, like you can see in this GIF, we can just keep changing the provider from Bedrock to OpenAI to Anthropic to Google, keep changing the model. Everything else remains absolutely the same, and Portkey handles all other request response transformations to help you make these calls to any of these other APIs, all of which is response schemas and request schemas look very, very different. I'm excited to share that this is the same gateway that we have integrated with the ToolJet platform. So now on the ToolJet platform, using Portkey, using the Portkey plugin, you can call 250 different LLMs with one line API key. You just come and add your API key, you just come and add your virtual key on Portkey, and everything will be, you'll be able to call any of these models. This is very, very exciting to us personally because a lot of the companies that we talk to at Portkey, they are also building a lot of internal tools that their teams consume. So it will be a tool where they're doing some kind of uh, they're going over some of their knowledge bases to help the team answer specific questions about their documentation, or they're building some kind of content generation tool that's used by a team internally to write an email or to write a blog post or to generate an image, those kind of things. And now with the ToolJet and Portkey integration, all of these different apps that you can build to make your lives easier, they just got a power up. Back to you, Pritesh.
Yeah, thank you so much for the brief intro of like what Portkey is. I'm pretty sure, apart from building it with ToolJet, it is also helpful for all the Gen AI or AI companies which will make their life easier because they just need to change the model name and rest is handled by Portkey, right? Along with that, it comes with a dashboard where you can analyze your data and you can do multiple other stuff along with that, right? And that can be super helpful for companies to understand what is the usage and everything for whatever models they're using. Cool, awesome. So now we'll start building the application. I'm pretty sure a lot of you must be waiting how you can build with Portkey and ToolJet. So I'll start with how you can integrate in the data source first, and then you can we will be jumping on to the app builder to build the AI model comparison application. So before we start building the application, let me give you a quick demo. So in this application, we have system prompt, user prompt. We have option to change the OpenAI models and the Grok models. Okay, now you can add your user prompt, for example, hello, and you can run it. As you can see, in response, we got response from the 3.5 Turbo and also the Llama Instant models. Also, along with that, we get token used, the total token used, and the time taken for the query to execute. Okay, now you can add system prompt. For example, you are so currently the system is you are just a helpful assistant. You can try modifying it. For example, you are a desk assistant at a mobile shop. Okay, and here you can add a prompt, uh, my mobile is not working. Okay, you can add a system prompt first. Once you add a system prompt, you will see that it is there in the chat, and then you can again run this. Now you can see we got response from both of these models, and you can see the difference in the response. You can check it with different by switching in between different models. For example, here if I change the models and if I rerun the same query, okay, now if you see the response, it got us a little different response because the model is different. So this is the application that we're going to build. So yeah, let's start building. So firstly, we need to add Portkey data source. For that, you need to go to data source. You can go to plugins. You need to first add the plugin from your marketplace if it is not available here. Then you can click on add, and here you need to add your API keys and virtual key. You'll get both of these keys from the Portkey dashboard. Once you log into Portkey, it will show this dashboard. You can go to API keys and you can copy these API keys. To get the virtual keys, you can go to virtual keys, and here you need to add your AI provider, and then you can add your virtual key details here, and then you can click on create. Once you do that, it will generate the virtual key for you. You can copy the virtual key and then you can add it in the data source. You can test the connection and save it. Once you are done adding your data sources, we can start building the application. So firstly, let's start with the header. So I'll go to text, put it here, change it to AI model comparison app, and here we'll change the size to 24. We also have a color theme here, so I'll be changing the color to that. Okay, let's make it. Let's add the weight as boulder. Yeah, better. Now let's add two containers. So now let's add the container. And this container will be having a text for system, and this can be small. Yeah, this will be bold and 16. All right. We also need to add a text area here. Okay. Let's increase the height. Yeah, this is better. And now we can copy this and we can drag it here. Okay, cool. This will be for the user. All right, we can delete the default value from both of these and change the placeholder to enter your prompt. Okay, cool. Let's quickly add a button component. This will be for add. Okay, here also we'll be using the same color. Let's get the color from here and put it here. Okay, we need one more button to run the user prompt, and we can put it run, and one last button to clear everything. Okay, so this will be clear all, but this will be a secondary button, so we'll change this to text. Okay, I think border also we need to change. And yeah, cool. So we are done changing all of these and this looks nice. Now let's add the drop down component. Okay, let's change the position of the buttons a bit on upper side. Yeah, better. Coming to the drop down, we need to increase the height, and we don't want label here, so we'll just remove it and let's increase the width to this. Okay, all right. So first drop down will be for OpenAI. So as I already shown you in the demo that we can change the models from the drop down, and then you can use that to run your prompt. Okay, so for that we have to create the drop down. First will be for OpenAI. Okay, so these are the models. So in option values we'll just add the model names, and in default let's add 3.5 turbo. Okay, cool. And yeah, now we can add a text here which will contain the markdown. So we'll be converting the entire data into markdown format so that we can show it over here. This will be a markdown, and line height will be 2. Yeah, this looks good. All right, we need to add a divider now, a vertical divider. Okay, and let's increase the height. Cool. And this also can be this much. Okay, let's quickly copy the drop down because we need to put it for the Croc as well. Okay, let's also copy the text component. Okay, and put it here. All right, so we are done. Okay, we are yet to add the labels for this. So this will be drop down for Croc models. So labels will be these. Here also we'll just add models of Croc in the option values, and we'll keep the default value as llama instant. Okay, all right, cool. So we're done with the UI of this application, and now we'll be building the logic and we'll be adding the queries. Let's start with adding the Portkey queries. The first will be for OpenAI. Okay, operation will be chat, and you can see the message here. So we have to add the message in a particular format. So let's add the message in this format. Okay, and for models we can get the models from the drop down. So it will be components dot drop down one value. Okay, it's 3.5 turbo right now. Now let's test this out. Let's run the query, and you can see we got the response. The response is nested, so you can see that in choices we have message, and in that we have content and role. Okay, we have to store this in order to show in the text component over here. In usage also we are getting prompt tokens, completion tokens, and total tokens. Total tokens is something that we'll be storing in order to show in our UI. Similar to OpenAI, we have to create a query for Croc, and to do that you can duplicate the query and rename it to Grok. Okay, just change this to Grok, and rest of the stuff will be similar, and also the drop down you want the llama here. Okay, let's run the query, and you can see we got the similar format of response. Okay, so one thing to note over here is we are only getting one response, that is with the role of assistant, and we want to show the entire chat in the UI. So you have to manage the state where we store all these details starting from the role system, role user, and role assistant. All these three of them should be stored in an array so that we can show that on our UI. And to do that we have to store it in the ToolJet variables. So you can see that we are having variables here, and in this variables we'll be storing all these data. So let's start with creating the JavaScript file so that we can store these in the format of array. This will be on page load. So whenever the page loads, we want to set some variables with some default value. You can see that we have added actions set variables. First is the OpenAI, and second is the messages for Croc. By default we'll be adding the system as you are an helpful assistant, but you can any which ways change it from UI. Once you run this, you can see that in variables we have OpenAI and Grok messages, okay, and role system. So these are stored as array of an objects, and in object we have different type of roles. For now we have just added system, but later on as we progress we'll be storing all the roles starting from system, user, and assistant in this particular array only, so that we can access this inside of our application. So you must have seen in the demo that we were calculating the time taken by a particular response from a particular AI model. And to calculate that, we have to create another JavaScript file. And this will be calculate time. Before we calculate the time, the first thing that we want to do is once user inputs the prompt in the user prompt input box, you have to store them in the variable. So we will be adding them as role user, and whatever the content user writes in the text area too, it will be stored inside of the variable for both OpenAI and Grok. In ToolJet, if you want to calculate the time taken by a particular query, you can follow this method. You can write performance.now, run the query, and then you can again do performance.now. Then you can subtract the end time from the start time in order to get the time taken by that particular query. So this was for OpenAI. Similar to OpenAI, we also want to calculate the time taken by the Croc query. So we'll add that here. And lastly, we will return the times. Cool. can just run it for now, and once you run it, you can see that we got the time taken by each of these queries. Now if you see the variables, there is one more object added, that is for user. Right now we do not have anything inside of the text area, so it stored the empty string. Now the last thing we are left with here is to store the response that we are getting from OpenAI and Grok. For example, if I run the query, we got this response, and we want to store this response inside of the variables. And for that, we'll again create a JavaScript query. This will be add message to OpenAI. Firstly, let's get the data here. So content again we're getting from the queries.openai data, and tokens also we're getting from the response. And now we have to add these to the variables with the role of assistant, because we are getting the response in the role of assistant. You can see content as content, tokens, and yeah, cool. Now if you run this, you can see in variables we have got the response. Okay, so we were able to store all three of the roles: system, ob system, user, and assistant. Similar to OpenAI, we have to create one for Croc as well. So let's duplicate this query. We'll make it messages to Grok, and we have to change the script here. We are getting the data from Croc Query, and then we are just adding it to the Grok variable. If you let me run this first, and now if I go to Grok and if I run this, we can see that we got the response here. Now we have to show these values inside of the text component in the markdown format. And to do that, again we have to create a JavaScript query which will help us convert the array of objects into a markdown format. Firstly, let's create a function. Let me increase the screen size here. Yeah, so you can see this is the function that will help us. So this function will take messages and model. So you have to tell which messages you're getting. Is it OpenAI or Grok? And you can add the model as well. As you can see, we are just passing the OpenAI data, and for Grok as well, let's add one. Cool. Now we'll just return these two variables. So both of these variables will include the markdown format of the conversation that we're having with each of these models. So now if I run this, you can see that we got the response into the markdown format. Let's connect these with the text components. Firstly, let's add the chat for the Grok model. For that, you can do queries convert to markdown dot data and then Grok messages. Okay, we got the response. But we didn't got the time. I'll get back to this in a while. And here we will add OpenAI messages, and yeah, cool. So we have created a lot of JavaScript queries, and now it's time to connect each of these. Okay, so firstly we'll add some user prompt, and we'll click on run. So this run will be running the calculate time query. Yeah. Now if you go to calculate time, it will run both of these queries, OpenAI and Grok, and these queries will get us the response. If you go to OpenAI, here we need to add variables dot, this is OpenAI. Okay, and here we need to add an event handler which will run we have to store the response, right? So it will be add message to OpenAI. Okay, this will on this query will add the data to the variable that we have created here. Okay, similar to this in Grok, we have to change this to variables Grok and add an event handler here, which will run a query, add message to Grok. Okay, and right after we add the data to the variables, we want to show it in the UI. For that, we'll be running the query convert to markdown. We want to do the same for OpenAI as well. Want to run query, that is convert to markdown. Okay, in clear all button we want to add two event handlers. First is to run the on page load query so that it clears out all the data inside of the variables, and second will be to show it in the UI. Again, to do that we'll be adding convert to markdown. Cool. Now if you click this, you can see the variables are just having one thing right now, that is system. Okay, here also in UI you can see we just have system right now. All right, before I test this out, I want to show you one thing, that the time that we are calculating over here, we are adding that time into the markdown in this function. You can see that if the role is assistant, we want to add the calculated time over here. Now let's quickly test this out. We'll run a query, but let's add a loader over here so that we'll know how much time is it taking to run the query. It will be queries calculate time is loading. Okay, let's enter hello here. Cool, you can see that we got the response and everything looks fine. Last thing that we are left with in this application is adding a system prompt. And to add a system prompt, again we have to create one more JavaScript query, and that is the last one for the day. And this will be add system prompt. After this query, again we want to show it in the UI, so we'll be running convert to markdown over here. Okay, and we want to run this query on this button, so this will run add system prompt. Okay, and this will be again role system, and content will be whatever we enter in text area 1, and this will add the data into the arrays we have in the variables. So now we are pretty much done with everything, but before we test this application, I want to update one thing, that if you go to Grok and in messages, you have to update one thing, because Grok doesn't take the tokens inside of messages. So you have to remove the token from your array of objects, and you have to just pass the rest of the details. So this is how you can remove the tokens and pass rest of the details. Now it's time to test your application. So let's give the system, initially let's just start with normal conversation, that hello, how are you? And we got the response from both of them with the time taken by each of these, and also we have the total tokens here. Now let's give a system prompt of you are an assistant of a big hotel. Okay, and I'll just ask how many rooms are available. Okay, now before I add the user prompt, make sure you add a system prompt. Okay, So you can see that we have added the system prompt, and let's quickly run the user prompt now. Okay, it's taking some time. Once it is all right, you can see that the response from both of these are here. From OpenAI, we got the response that okay, 200 rooms are available, and we got little more detailed answer from the Llama instant. Now you can try and test out different models. For example, I can go to GPT-4 Turbo here, and here I can add versatile, Llama versatile. Okay, I'll run the same prompt again. Cool. You can see that now we got a little different response. That it doesn't have access to availability and stuff, but this took the context and gave the response here. All right, this is how you can connect various models, and you can switch between different models, and you can create various type of application with the Portkey integration. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial of building AI model comparison application with Portkey. You can check out more of our tutorials on our blogs, that is on blogs.tooljet.com. If you have any questions or queries, feel free to drop in the chat. In case if you have any questions, queries or feedback for ToolJet, feel free to join our Slack community. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you in the next one.